Let's learn Ne Zha in 5 minutes or less. Trust me, it is possible. We're going to go over his build, his playstyle, his abilities, and some other little tips here and there. If this guide helps you into a new favourite god, then please do consider subscribing. It really does help the channel out. And a like, if you think this video guide is helpful, will aid in sharing it to other people so that they can also learn from this guide. Currently, less than 1% of our viewers are actually subscribed, so it would really help the channel grow and help us reach new audiences. Anyway, on with the guide. For a quick leveling guide, you'll want to put points in your ultimate whenever you can, then max your 1, then your 2, and finally your 3. Although you can actually max your 3 before you 2, especially if you're going for a more ability-based or support build. It's actually one that I regularly do, so I tend to go with my ultimate, then my 1, then my 3, then my 2. But either are perfectly viable. Your passive gives you stacks of temporary movement speed whenever you hit an enemy with a basic attack or ability. While the movement speed is nice, 90% of the time you'll be consuming these stacks with your second ability. Your first ability is your main damage option. You throw a line projectile that connects with the first enemy it hits, dealing damage and shredding their protections while slowing them and speeding you up. The projectile then bounces up to 8 times to nearby enemies, giving them the same effect. Your second ability is a buff to your auto attacks, making you hit faster and giving you a chance to crit. When activated, you also consume your passive stacks to heal for up to 10 health per stack, plus your power score. Your third ability throws out a leash straight ahead of you that deals damage and stuns the enemy god it hits for 1 second. Ne Zha is then pulled towards the stunned god, dodging enemy attacks as he travels through the air. Your ultimate ability is similar in ways to your third. It is a thin line targeter that can connect with a single enemy god. You become CC immune when this is activated and dash in a straight line. If you hit an enemy god, you launch them and yourselves into the air, and both of you become untargetable. You will then see a series of 3 flowers appear as Ne Zha attacks the enemy that was launched. Click your basic attack button just before each attack, and it will become a crit, dealing extra damage. When you land, you return to wherever you first cast the ability from, bouncing back to the origin of your dash. At the time of making this guide, a typical build consisted of Bluestone Pendant to start, or Bumba's Dagger if you're in the jungle, Transcendence if you can stack, or Jotun's Hammer if you can't, then Hydra's Lament, Brawler's Beatstick, Heartseeker, and Deathbringer, upgraded into the Malicious Deathbringer Glyph. But Smite is always changing with regular patches, new gods, new items, and new metas being born out of the Pro League. So, if we take a look at what type of stats and passes we need, we can begin to piece together a build that will work in any meta. So, power and scaling we are definitely going to need. We are a primarily ability-based assassin, so a lot of our abilities scale quite heavily based on power, so a whole lot of that is required. Penetration against squishy targets is also needed. It is our job to kill the squishy enemy backline, the enemy mage or enemy ADC, or even the enemy assassin if they have one. Percent penetration versus tanks is also needed late game. Tanks are just naturally going to be a big threat later on in the game, and they're going to be there for a long time. So we're going to want some percent penetration to chunk through them a little bit. Critical chance and critical damage is maybe needed. It's not necessary in every build, but Ne Zha can certainly make good use of it given the guaranteed crits with his ultimate and the extra crits that he can get based off his second ability. So it definitely doesn't hurt to build critical damage, and you can go a full auto attack build, but I typically only pick this up later on in the game. Unlike some auto attack build assassins, you don't actually need any attack speed in the build. Because you have your stim, your second ability, Ne Zha is one of the few assassins that has access to a very, very good auto attack stim in his kit, so we don't really need to worry too much about that. For protective auras, general tankiness, and protections, you can pick these up because you can play Ne Zha as a tank or support, but typically I would suggest you don't pick these up. Learn tank and support on Guardians and Warriors, and then consider taking your Guardian and Warrior build and trying it on Ne Zha. It's basically a 1-for-1 replacement. Ne Zha just ends up being a useful support thanks to the amount of CC that he has. Cooldown reduction you are typically going to want to need more of your 1, 3, and 4 abilities. More of your first, third, and fourth abilities basically equal more damage, as you are typically an ability-based assassin. You will also probably want some sustain through lifesteal. You are very squishy without any of this, and it's going to keep you in the fight longer. A big late game luxury item is always going to be required for any sort of carry position, which is basically the mage, assassin, or ADC. Sometimes warriors can also pick these up, but just like any of the other late game damage dealers, a big late game luxury item is needed. At the moment, that is Heartseeker. That is also your percent penetration item. And last but not least, as always, anti-heal. It's going to be a maybe if they have an amount of healing, if they have a bunch of soul eaters, or they have a full-on healer, then you're going to want to pick up anti-heal and put it in your build somewhere. Brawler's Beatstick is currently the best option for Ne Zha in that regard. So to wrap up the build, you want a lot of power, a little penetration and cooldown, some late game percent penetration, and some more power for good measure. But you can build Ne Zha full tank as a support, bruisery like a solo laner, or lean into the crits and try to be a melee ADC. So experiment and find your favourite flavour of Ne Zha. The most important thing to know once you have the absolute basics of a god down is their bread and butter. What the go-to combo is that makes them good. What are you supposed to spend most of your time doing as this character? For Ne Zha, I actually have a quick note on what you'll be doing the most, and the second thing for you to work on. The bread and butter is to hit enemy gods with your first ability, but try to only hit enemy gods. You lose so much damage if the ring bounces along minions, so if you're able to just hit 2 enemy gods with it, the damage will be devastating. You can also try bouncing it off the last minion of a wave perhaps, or setting it up on a god with your third ability, stunning them first, so you can easily land that ring toss first ability. The thing to work on, however, is your auto attack animation cancels. After you hit a basic attack and the damage has registered, there is actually an after animation where you effectively aren't doing basic attack damage and it's just a waste of time. To avoid this, hit an enemy with a basic attack, and the second your damage registers, use one of your 3 regular abilities to reset your animation. That way you're not wasting any time on that after effect. Gods that use this effectively will almost always pick up the item Hydra's Lament, as it empowers a basic attack after you use an ability. So get those auto attack animation cancel chains going and absolutely shred some backline targets. I hope you love Ne Zha anywhere near as much as I do. He's probably my favourite assassin, definitely my highest assassin in terms of worshippers. But if you don't, be sure to check out some of our other quick start god guides on the channel, and I'm sure we'll find the right god for you. Ciao.